Meeting Lauren in Italy felt like meeting my older self. And if I had fulfilled my dream of becoming a traveling winemaker, perhaps this is how I would have seen myself. And every single conversation I've had with Lauren has always been an inspiring story of her journey across different horizons and over every glass of wine we shared. And every story taught me something new that I didn't know. And she's worked in production, in viticulture, in tourism, and so many different aspects in the business of wine. And I just felt that I'm sure there's so much more, still so many more untold stories. So here's introducing my friend and industry soul sister. Let's hear all the traveling wine lore with Lauren Rauschenberg. I hope I said that right.
That was perfect. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here talking about one of my favorite subjects.
So let's get straight into it. What inspired you to get into wine?
Let's see. I worked in restaurants for a while when I was younger, and it was kind of the experience where the manager would come around and they would be showcasing a wine for the evening that we would try to sell to customers. And I would get so nervous talking about wine, and I, would clam up and just realize that it was really something that I didn't know a whole lot about. So when I had the opportunity to go to New Zealand on a working holiday visa, one of my friends said that they were hiring at the winery she was working at, and I kind of jumped at the chance to bridge that gap in my knowledge, because I was like, well, I feel like I'm going to learn more actually doing than just reading about it in a book. So I took it to the extreme, and here I am
Wow.
years later in the wine industry still, and still so much more to learn about it. But I would
Even
say,
after a decade.
yeah, I feel like the more you learn about wine, the more you realize you have to learn about it.
Yeah.
But it was kind of a happy accident where I was doing a few random jobs in New Zealand, and then this came along, this opportunity, and I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Wow, and just like that, did you just hear about this through like any ad, or was it just by word of mouth that, hey, we're looking for people?
So yeah, it was just one of my best friends now. She happened to be staying in the hostel room with me. She was telling me about what she did, and I was like, oh, I don't think I have, any of the skills to do what you do. I had heard that they don't really hire newbies outside of the harvest. So I didn't even think I had a shot, but she set me up with an interview on the night shift with her boss, and he was like, "Yeah, let's give it a shot." And I was like, "Okay, do it."
Wow,
And
that's amazing.
I was literally the degassing girl, like making sure the dissolved oxygen and the CO2 were at the right levels for export of the wine. I did that for 3 or 4 months. Um, before they felt comfortable like getting me to a different level. And at that time, I had no idea what dissolved oxygen and CO2 levels meant in a wine. So
And straight into it.
it was a learning curve for sure.
Wow, and this was in New Zealand, you were saying.
Yes.
When did you actually learn about this term? Well, it's more popular now, but back like many years ago, not many years, not ancient, but a few years ago, a few years ago about, the traveling winemaker or the concept of traveling winemaker. I asked this because, social media manager was not a job. It is now. And I'm sure being a traveling winemaker was also not a profession, or not as an established profession before. And how did you come about, learning about this? And did you just kind of learn as you went, or did you have an idea? Could you just tell us what does it actually mean to be a traveling winemaker? And is it a full-time job, or is it like a freelance job?
I think it can be whatever you want it to be, honestly. the great part about it. You can work as much as you want in a year. You can work as little as you want in a year. So if have like an extra 4 weeks, say, you could go help pick grapes in France, or if you want to dedicate yourself to an entire season, you can be there for up to 5 months, maybe longer if the winery has a necessity for you. Um, you can work maybe 4 harvests in a year, which, is going to be,
Globe trotting around the world.
yeah, it can be pretty exhausting. Like you could do a harvest, let's say, early on in Australia and then, or in South Africa, and hop over to New Zealand, and then you can do a midsummer harvest in the northern hemisphere in Mexico, and then you can do a late harvest in the fall, in Northern California, Oregon, or Washington. So you can make it what you want it to be. But I would say when I first started, it was a whole new world to me. I had no idea what to expect. And so I started outside of the harvest season, and then once harvest rolled around, all of these international traveling winemakers came back to the winery I was working at
Okay.
for my first harvest. And I was, we've got people from China and Scotland and Mexico and the US and all over Europe, like literally everywhere you can think of, people were coming from. And I was like, wow, friends. Um, so I got to meet a lot of these people, became really good friends with them, learned their stories, and I I decided that it was a fantastic way to travel, to make money, make friends, see the world. And it swiftly became what I really wanted to do. Even outside of the winemaking, like I really enjoyed the winemaking, but I would say at that point, it wasn't my passion yet. So that kind of came together along the way, if that makes sense. Um,
It was aging in the barrel.
yeah, because I studied something completely different and really had no idea that this would become my future as
But
a
it's
hobby.
so cool that everybody thinks in winemaking, or the general idea is, oh, you should know this, you should know that. But I mean, this could be applicable to any industry. It's not really about what you know, but who you know, right? Like, and through one person recommending another, you get your internships, you get a harvest, and sometimes people are looking for help in the vineyard during pruning, during the off season and the downtime. And it's very easy to just say, oh, hey, I mean, I have a contact in France, and or there's someone in Pauillac. If you need, they can come down to Margot. And it's so cool that eventually a network starts building.
Absolutely.
And usually in these kind of places, do you have to have some kind of savings before, or or is the pay that you get in these opportunities sufficient for you during those hours or that time?
It really depends on where you're going to be working because the pay scale it ranges significantly depending on the country that you're working in, the role
Mm-hmm.
that you're working in. I would say it's definitely good to have a little bit of padding in the bank, at least for the flight or the cost of visas to
Mm-hmm.
get you there. But for example, I mean, most places I've worked, I have been able to save a bit. And what a lot of people do is they work their harvest, they save up for, that period of time, and then they'll go travel for 3 months, and then they'll go and work the next harvest and be able to save and then travel. It's kind of, just that pattern. But yeah, it's not like your friends back home that have a steady job that are able to invest in an IRA or have Social Security or whatever
Mm-hmm.
program their government offers them where they're guaranteed like a Social Security check after
True.
they
True.
retire. So I am missing out on that per se. So, some of my family is a little concerned for my finances, but I I'm like, what it is. I'll settle down someday.
Yeah,
And
I mean, if you were a wildlife photographer, or if you were a travel documentary camera person, or if you were following someone, and related to travel, these kind of jobs probably have a similar perspective too. That they're kind of just moving on the go, taking on whatever they have as an opportunity and making the most of it. And would you say that you'd have to definitely do some research based on the region? Like, for example, Chile makes really great wine and they are heavily dependent on export, but as a country, it may not have the facilities that you'd expect in maybe, Germany or in Oregon, for example, or Australia, where you'd have more accessibility because of the terrain and terroir and things like that. Does that come also into play when you're looking for new regions to travel to?
um, yes, I don't know, actually. It's tricky. Like for me, it's kind of like not like I just pick a random spot on the map and I'm like, yeah, I'll
Mm-hmm.
go there. But hearing about people's experiences or wanting to experience
Mm.
for myself. I have worked in Chile, I have worked in South Africa. I would say those two have been the harvests where I have earned the least amount of money, but also gained so much experience. Um, Sometimes, uh, you know, it's really not about the money. It's
Very true.
the place that you're going to be in, the experiences and the people that you're going to meet and have, and um, yeah. But I mean, every every place that's making wine has their they've been doing it for a while and they have their practices like sorted out. If
Mm.
like maybe there's been a few times where I felt like the winery was lacking in equipment or just the layout of the building was subpar. Um, but these people, they make the wine because of their passion for it, and I think that's
Mm-hmm.
what helps them to succeed, despite
Mm-hmm.
having the resources or the money to get them to where they would need to be a little more successful. But um, yeah.
But I think it's the more cultural philosophy and the idea behind actually making and trying to bring your passion and your style of winemaking, representing that region. And there's so much. It's more of a culturally rich experience, not as a monetarily. I don't think you should prioritize money in a profession like this. It's more about the experiences and the learning and the kind of exposure, in fact, that you get, even about yourself sometimes. So you did. Sorry, go on.
I was just gonna say, if I wanted to prioritize money in my life, this would not be the industry that it is. An industry of passion and
It's
fun.
really true. Although wines are, and we do have fine wines, and it is a very premium luxury sector, let's say, but as an industry, but overall, I think people underestimate, or rather overestimate, the pay in winemaking, and it varies. There's different business models, and I'm sure if anyone's learning or studying wine, they would be more familiar with that. So you mentioned a working holiday visa. Now this is quite interesting. So are you working or are you on holiday? What's the story?
Well, honestly, both. You gotta find time to play around, working. It can't be all about work. But really, during the harvest period, you are making so many friends. It's kind of like really hard to not have a good day when you come to work and see your best friends. You just meet these people, but you are in such an intense experience in such a short period of time. You guys become like this. Like both of my best friends currently in my life, they are in the wine industry, and it's like going, not necessarily exactly like this, but going to like a sleepaway summer camp when you're younger. It's just such a memorable experience in such a short period of time that you create these lifelong lifelong bonds with people, and it's a really special experience. But the working holiday visa, exactly, not every country offers it, and it's different for um, certain nationals to like the visa process is just not equivalent across all boards.
Hmm.
So, for one person, a visa might cost nothing. For a different person from a different country, it might cost a lot more for them. Um, and different visas, working holiday visas, have different lengths of stay for
True.
nationals. So, yeah, it's a mixed bag when it comes down to that.
So there's definitely a lot of like uncertain territory in this kind of a domain, and you need to be prepared, financially and be ready for a lot of maybe, puzzles or just unsolved or questions without answers readily available for you. And I guess you just figure it out through the process. And I completely agree that some of these things are not entirely in our control, especially with the visa processing, and it entirely depends on your nationality and how the country's agreements are within each other. And sometimes it's much more easier, and whether it's a heavily tourism or a heavily agriculture based country. I mean, every country at this point makes wine for sure, but what the priorities are in terms of hiring and it really depends. So this is something to be aware about. I think to be aware of the amount of uncertainty there is, and that you need to be prepared for it.
Why friends and friends of friends become a great resource in the industry. So you can actually have people that you can come to with these questions and uncertainties. And it might not be exactly the same process for you, but at least you have a better idea of what these people have gone through with
Oh,
bureaucracy
for sure.
and different wineries. So they are the best resource that you have.
And one of the reasons to start this podcast also was to be able to share these stories, because I found it really difficult to search for wine programs. And yes, there was the typical, B school program in, an import export or like a specific brand management kind of thing, but it wasn't what I was looking for. And it took some research to be able to come across the program. And so and there wasn't much of a communication out there for other regions too. And I mean, through you, I learned about the Traveling Winemakers Facebook page, and at least there are some efforts to be able to build a community. And I think one of the reasons I think even the at least not as popularly known regions for wine, for example India, it's more known for its culture and history rather than the winemaking. But I think it is important to have more accessibility to information, and that was one of the reasons to be able to begin this series. And I'm so glad you're sharing your story here with us. You've traveled to almost every continent, so would you say you have a favorite, and any favorite region in particular, which or any wine making style that you really, which kind of blew your mind, whether it's sparkling or ice wine or just the technique, which was your favorite or most interesting?
Um, I would say what I have mostly done is cool climate winemaking.
Okay.
Uh, Particularly, my favorite was probably South Africa.
Okay.
It was a very unique and a special experience. Um, they were making cool climate Syrah and Sauvignon Blanc. These wines just blew me out of the water. In this particular region, they have these bushes or flowers called fynbos. So it literally means like small or fine bush in
Hmm.
Dutch or Afrikaans, and they really impart such a unique quality into the wines, kind of like an herbaceous floral quality that is just spectacular.
Wow.
Um, I was there during COVID, and it was little bit of a hectic experience because
Oh my God, in a foreign country through
yeah,
a global epidemic,
yeah,
pandemic.
it was they moved. It was me and my ex-partner at the time. We had to move from our like little beachside cottage to the tasting room, um,
Hmm.
so that we could actually finish the harvest because they weren't certain the if the police or the military would pull us over on the way to the winery.
True.
And
Hmm.
we never stayed our visa because that we were there for almost 6 months, but we had
Okay.
submitted with the government an application for an extension, but the government was essentially closed down. So
Oh, true.
we never had any trouble, leaving on a repatriation flight, but we were a little nervous. But a lot of wineries, they had to stop production. Uh,
Hmm.
the sale of tobacco and alcohol was prohibited. So it was a very trying time for a lot of these wineries, and unfortunately, at the end, some wineries could not recover, and they did
Oh
not.
no, the COVID pandemic really hit everybody. I mean, I was working in the hotels at the time, and hotels became institutional quarantine centers because we just needed to pull business, and hospitals were totally flooded, and the symptoms were just growing and growing. And India, as a population, is so large that it's a lot of people had trouble even understanding the concept and being aware of, they didn't think that, oh, if we can't see it, it's not really happening. Is it just a cough and cold? But until some deaths started getting reported, I didn't think that people actually started taking it more seriously. But it was definitely a trying time. And somewhere the whole world just flipped. It was like an Uno reverse of every system built. Just, you could do anything you wanted. And I think in a good way, that shift has somehow carried on to be able to remind us that, there's nothing set in stone and there's always your own way to figure things out. And, we need to help each other recover, and we need to help each other figure out that way. And, sharing these stories always helps, and you learn at least through vicariously and vicarious experiences. But wow, that's such an incredible experience to be doing harvest in a very beautiful country like South Africa and discovering a French variety in, a South African terroir. May I ask, do you remember which region you were in South Africa?
Yeah, we were in the southernmost region in South Africa, close to the southernmost point of South Africa in the Cape Agulhas region.
Okay,
So it was kind of, outside of Stellenbosch, outside of Franschhoek,
okay.
and yeah, not like your classic winemaking regions, but
Mm-hmm.
a more up and coming wine region.
Okay.
And yeah, those producers down there have not only a spectacular landscape and philosophy about winemaking, but they truly execute them quite beautifully. So yeah, I would say that was one of my favorites. But New Zealand, kind of like my second home. That's where I got my start. So it holds my heart. And then Croatia was a fantastic experience for me too. So
I remember we were in class and we were discussing internships and part-time jobs, and you were saying, "Oh, I might go to Croatia," and I had just read an article about barrels being aged in Montenegro under the sea, and we just got straight into it, and I remember even just interacting with you was about Croatia and winemaking, and eventually we became such great friends, and I'm so glad you brought it up. So, how was Croatia, especially for it being mostly known for probably tourism, I think, but I would never imagine Croatia as, I mean, Greece, yes, it does have the history. I'm sure it must linger around, but do tell us about Croatia. It seems so exciting.
yeah, so a lot of the varietals are native that they grow there, but a lot of them do come from Greece. They were brought by the Ionians back, I don't know, like 3,000 years ago. So I was on an island called Brač, um,
Hmm.
in the middle of the Adriatic Sea.
But did you were on a separate island from Croatia,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah. Oh, it's not too far from Split. Yeah, we were growing mostly native varietals there, Plavac Mali and uh,
Hmm.
fall ship. Um, they had a bit of Tribidrug, which is Zinfandel or Primitivo. And
Mm-hmm.
a while back, there was a dispute between Italy and Croatia as to where it actually originated from.
Just
But
like Chenin Blanc with the France and South Africa.
exactly. Um, but scientists actually were able to uncover that Trippi it is a native varietal of Croatia. So those bragging rights.
Yay, Croatia won.
Uh,
Croatia has a very cool geography in terms of the placement. It is still in the 50-degree latitude, but at the same time, it's also coastal. And it's not like where you can say coastal is a singular influence for one particular region, where in Australia you have central and southern. But in Croatia, it's entirely an island. So did that affect the current of the Adriatic Sea and just being, how is it like making wine in Croatia?
well, the weather could be a little unpredictable. Um, for example, they are used to starting their harvest in the middle of August, but
Mm-hmm.
they had an unprecedented heat wave come through during that summer, so everything
Mm-hmm.
was ripening uh, more quickly than they anticipated. So the harvest started the first week of August. So that led only half of their intern team to arrive early, which consisted of me, one of my best friends, and our other friend Joaquin. And it was an intense 2 week period where we had to take care of all of the winemaking, just the three of us. So we were working some really long shifts, but
And
anyway,
you had to do all of it all, like the reception, the harvest, the pressing, and oh wow! And just it's the three of you. Oh my god.
yeah.
Uh,
It was white grapes at first, so white grapes are a little more demanding during the harvest.
mm-hmm.
The press cycles just last so much longer. You don't just put them in a tank and kind of wait to inoculate and wait for them to start fermenting. It's a pretty intense process, and they chill, like, cold stable the wines and then do rackings, and so yeah, it was an intense process for the first.
How did you guys delegate the work just with the three of you? And did you have help come in for the sorting? Did you have any sorting, or was it mechanical harvest?
No, it was the grapes were machine harvested.
Okay.
And sorry, some lots were machine harvested, others were handpicked because they had them in like the little crates. So the pallets would come in with all these stacked crates for what Sophia and Juan
Mm-hmm.
and I were doing. We were handling the hand-picked fruit, where it would come in on the crates. You would throw the crate on the sorting line. Me and Joaquin would do a decent sorting for what we could. Then it would go through a heat exchanger, would go into the press. We would do the press and all the additions at that moment. Um, and yeah, have to send it to the tanks. And it was pretty much four of us because we had the three of us plus the enologist. But it was kind of a crazy experience because early on, in the middle of harvest, she went on maternity leave. Uh,
Oh.
by that time, we had the other three interns join us, but I was doing a little bit more of the lab work and the enological decisions at that
Mhm.
point. So it was a bit tricky. Going from a peer with my work colleagues to having to take that responsibility to kind of like delegate to them what was needed to be done. But yeah, I mean, we got it done.
I'm sure you rose to the occasion. The vintage of 2024 will always be remembered. But it's incredible, and wow, it's just amazing to see that how you've constantly embraced every opportunity, whether it was meeting someone, making a friend at a hostel, and then just going to New Zealand, or discovering a new opportunity and then heading to Croatia. And then the occasion, the situation came up that you needed to take in more responsibility, and you didn't shy away. And I think those kind of experiences really teach you a lot more about yourself and what you are really capable of. And handling a lot of pressure, handling a lot of uncertainty. Oh, is the dream really a dream of becoming a traveling winemaker?
Yeah.
But it's, I'm sure it's very satisfying. It's very satisfying to be able to do what you do. And if you were able to give any like top 3 advice or tips on what to carry, anything in general that you think is important for people who are interested in this kind of a profession or looking for this kind of a professional journey of traveling and becoming a traveling winemaker of wine and travel together.
Mm-hmm. I would say it's not easy, but it's a lot of fun and it's very rewarding. Um, as I mentioned before, the friends that you make along the way, I think it's been really the most poignant thing for me, because it sucks to have all of your best friends living across the world. I wish
It does.
everybody into one commune and all live together for the rest of our days. But it's also quite beautiful because I have, homes to visit anywhere I go pretty much. So, yeah, I would say just cultivate those relationships. Networking is so important. Being adaptable, flexible, open to learning, and just really kind of being a sponge every place you go, not only for the winemaking techniques that you learn, but the culture practices around you. It's really important to just have an open mind and experience as much as you can. I think a lot of people in the industry not look down upon traveling winemaking. I definitely wouldn't say that, but people have a different perspective. Like, why have you not held a steady job for the last
Mm.
X amount of years? But then I meet other winemakers that are saying, travel while you're young, keep traveling and experiencing as much as you can, learning as much as you can, and you'll get to that point where you'll want to settle down and stay in one place one day. So maybe I'm doing it a little longer than I thought I might, but it still brings me so much joy and fulfillment that I don't want to stop. Um, but, now that I'm a little older and have more experiences, I'm starting to envision the future that I do want, and you know, the label or the brand that I want. And I'm starting to get excited about that venture. So we'll see what's next.
I'm so glad, and good luck for your new projects and every other story and every other page you turn in this journey. It's been amazing, and thank you so much for your time and presence. It really has opened up a lot of avenues to people and bringing a lot more attention to detail for this specific profession. And it's definitely uncertain. There's not much information, and how much information is too much information. But the idea of Da-Vintry Code is to be able to give you trusted resources or information from reliable resources and people who will tell you, we'll call a spade, basically. But I'm sure there are more questions that I've not had a chance to ask, because ever since I started posting more, I have been getting a lot more questions, but I may not be able to answer them on my own, but through help I would love to answer some more. So if people wanted to contact you and reach out their queries, whether it's for a specific place or just any other questions that they have regarding traveling winemaking, or just any questions that they think you can help them with, where can they contact you?
Yeah, I am always open to questions and talking about this subject. So anybody is more than welcome to ask me anything and everything. Um, I would say email or Instagram are the best bets. Is it better if I send you my?
Sure, I will be posting down your emails, but for those of us or for those people who might be listening, if you could just say your Instagram ID maybe or your email ID so that they can maybe take a note of it.
Sure. For Instagram, it's hopeless Hartley. The word hopeless, and then Hartley. It's from the seventh grade, so please, or that.
No, but you are instilling a lot of hope, Miss Hartley.
I should change it. And then for email, it's LRAUSCHE1987 @gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lauren, and thank you for introducing me to this whole new world as well. And I've learned so much just by talking to you, and I can't wait to see what you do with your new venture and all the projects that you're envisioning. And I wish you all the best and good luck.
Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you in person again.
I can't wait to see you too. Hopefully, if you're coming to Croatia, I will still be in Europe for a while, and we should definitely go there again. Or maybe we can explore an entirely different region altogether.
You know I'm up for it.